Mascot horror. A very controversial horror game genre, especially as of lately. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, a new, at least at the time of writing this, Mascot horror game has been making the rounds on YouTube. A game that has made not only me, but many other people concerned about the entire genre as a whole. It's a little game called Garden of Banban, and it, combined with two other games, has marked what I consider to be the dark age of Mascot horror. And in this video, I plan to go into depth as to why. Before we get to that though, let me give you a brief history of Mascot horror as a whole, and how we got to where we are today. Mascot horror is a genre of horror games usually targeted at kids that has a bright and recognizable main antagonist. That's it. Now on paper, this doesn't seem like a bad thing. I mean, a recognizable antagonist isn't a new concept, that's the point of having characters. However, there's a reason that the term is mostly used in a derogatory way. The term has kind of drifted off from its original meaning, and now is usually used to describe a bad, sellout horror game for babies. It's probably more accurate to describe games like this as horror games for kids, a term I've seen popping up more and more. The original term, though, actually originated with a series you might have heard of before, Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, I don't really think I need to explain what FNAF is to you guys, I'm assuming you're above the age of 1, but for those living under a mountain, the original FNAF is a game about resource management. You have to keep your power up while defending against the main animatronics. This game, for as quaint as it seems now, was revolutionary at the time. Every other horror game was a Slender-like game where you walked and scary stuff happened around you like a haunted house. So going from that to one room you couldn't even move in was insane. For its time, it was the most fresh and creative horror game people had seen in a long time. However, that's not the only reason the series got popular. The other big thing that FNAF had, besides cryptic lore, the thing I'd argue put us where we are today, were the characters. Each and every one of them were super unique and managed to be both appealing and creepy. See, at the time, horror mascots were one thing, and appealing is not that thing. They all focused on scaring you and not much else. It's not that they were unmemorable or bad, far from it, but like, do you want to own a plushie of this? Scott Cawthon was one of the first horror game developers to realize that having characters that can both scare you and appeal to the masses is huge for a game's longevity. There's also a baby game that helped too. Yeah, around this time is when Let's Plays of horror games reached their peak, with YouTubers like Markiplier dominating YouTube. This made people realize how many children play horror games, and more importantly, watch YouTubers play them. And Scott clearly leaned heavily into that. So after FNAF 1 and 2 were released to massive success, every dev at the time saw this and decided, hey, let's do that now. That success has set the trend for basically the entire genre, even to this day. However, most devs, when following this formula, don't follow the whole make a good game part, they follow the best way to make money. It slowly shifted over the years from making a creative game into making a horror game for babies. By that, I mean make a game that's barely a horror game so that 5-year-olds will play it, make the antagonist highly colorful, recognizable, and merchandisable, get popular YouTubers to play it, and hide really vague, confusing lore so you get a game theory episode about you. Multiple if you're lucky. Hello Neighbor, Bendy and the Ink Machine, Happy's Humble Burger Farm, Andy's Apple Farm, the prior two of which you probably didn't even know existed. It's a very simple yet effective formula to guarantee money. Even FNAF itself fell into this trend despite being the original. But here's the thing, even after saying all of that, I don't really mind Mascot horror. I'd actually consider myself a fan of it. My thing is, I can always see and appreciate what the devs were going for. FNAF Security Breach tried to be so good it was bad. Bendy did everything great, but then forgot they were making a game. Hello Neighbor? No, Hello Neighbor just sucks, but that's besides the point. The point is, I like most of these games. Call me a little baby all you want, but I find fun in these games despite their flaws, and I can tell, most importantly, that the devs behind it were passionate. That is, until recently. See, there's 3 games in this genre that have made me incredibly worried for the future of Mascot horror as a whole. 3 games that I consider to form the dark age of Mascot horror up to this point. Those games being the aforementioned Garden of Banban, Rainbow Friends, and Poppy Playtime. Let's go from best to worst to try and ease ourselves into it, starting with Poppy Playtime. Poppy Playtime is a game where you explore an abandoned toy factory, solving puzzles with your grab pack, a grappling hook-like device. My main issues with Poppy Playtime aren't really with the game itself, so I won't spend too long here, but to sum it up, the game is fine. The first chapter was way too short and you could only die at the very end, but the final chase was cool, and chapter 2 is longer and has more puzzles, but it just feels slightly boring. That's all well and good, The problem comes with the business practices of Mob Games, the creators. First off, I know I've said that every game started following the same trend, but this game feels like the definition of mascot horror to me. The other games I've mentioned at least had an idea that shifted into something bad, while this game feels like it was just molded by being a horror game for kids. Just looking at the antagonist, while I don't mind the look of Huggy Wuggy, it feels obvious that they were made specifically to cash in on the horror games for kids market and nothing else. It's even more obvious by the fact that they were already selling merch a bit after Chapter 1 came out. Bendy at least waited until well after Chapter 2 when the game was already wildly popular, but they wasted no time. You cannot tell me they created this game with anything but merch in mind. They also pretty much instantly introduced Huggy Wuggy onto their Minecraft animation channel, Enchanted Mob, which just shows they knew the power a character like this would have over their demographic, children. Speaking of that channel though, Enchanted Mob, and by extension Mob Games, just kinda sucks, like in general. They sold lore NFTs at one point, and when you combine that with the several controversies the animation channel's gotten into, it's clear that they really aren't great people. And that's my main issue with Poppy Playtime, is the business practices, because combining nearly day one merch with a shady company and a mediocre game, and I'm not sure how we let this game become so popular. That being said, I have like a combined 40 hours in the series, so maybe I should shut up. Yes, even after all that, I'm still actively consuming media from the series. I'm a massive hypocrite. It's just that, even though I dislike the company, the game is honestly kind of fun. The grab pack feels fun to use, the puzzles can be creative at times, the game honestly isn't horrible, I just wish it was made by someone else. So, what if we were to take Poppy Playtime and make it bad? Yes, Rainbow Friends, a Roblox horror game. Now I know just saying the word Roblox has made like 5 people click off the video, but hear me out. This game absolutely applies for the current discussion, and is where I think the decline truly started for the genre. You don't understand how many Rainbow Friends videos showed up in my recommended around the time it came out. It was everywhere for a while. The game features you going across 4 different sections, each one requiring you to collect a certain number of items randomly generated across the map while avoiding the 4 monsters the game features. Blue, yes their names are just colors, it's very creative, requires you to hide in your box, the main gimmick of this game, and if you don't, he'll chase and kill you. Green is blind and therefore never chases you, but if he runs into you, he will kill you even when you're in the box. Orange requires you to feed him every so often, and if you don't, he'll come out of his cave and kinda half run, half jog across the map in a very telegraphed and easy to avoid line. And purple hides in the vents, requiring you to avoid water on the ground when they appear. Just looking at these character designs, and it already feels like this was made to be a mascot horror game. This one even more than Poppy Playtime. While they aren't the worst things ever, they're also literally just random shapes with faces on them. And yes, there is merch of them, thank you for asking. Don't worry, I'm not talking about predatory business practices this time. I don't think any of the merch is actually associated with the game itself, or if it is, it's at least hard to tell. At least the game doesn't have a merch link in it. No, for this section, I actually want to focus more on the gameplay of Rainbow Friends. What gameplay? Yes, this game consists of the slowest, most boring experience I've ever had the displeasure of playing. The thing is, you can move while in the box, but the downside is that you move super slowly. This makes everyone extremely exploitable. Blue can't kill you in the box, so if you just always move in the box, you can't die. Orange literally doesn't matter, just sit on the side for a while. Purple does nothing, the only way you could possibly die to them is if they spawn on top of you, which to be fair isn't out of the question. And green, actually, green isn't that bad, but I am for my own reasons I'll get into later. That means that by far the best strategy is to just sit in the box the whole time, walking through the same boring area at a snail's pace with nearly no threats, trying to find the last stupid collectible only for the game to give up and just mark it on your map. It's also just very poorly programmed, which is understandable for a Roblox game, but even for a Roblox game it's not great. I know this is kind of off topic, but here's a quick lightning round of just a few issues I found. Yeah, so apparently there is actually a threat in this game. RNG, my favorite. In my first and only failed attempt, I died to green because he walked through a door at the same time as me. This was an unavoidable death. The only way I could have avoided it is if I just magically knew he was there. This is unfair and incredibly frustrating. It makes you not even want to walk around corners because you might just instantly die. He does have loud footsteps, but that hardly matters for a second reason. Green just doesn't move. Basically, there are times where Green will just sit still for some reason, which can lead to him sitting in front of the only exit, basically camping you. If he decides to do it on the other side of a door, then you're just stuck there now. Blue is honestly just pathetic in this game. If you're in the box, he can't kill you even if he touches you. However, if he does see you, it hardly matters because he has the attention span of... I don't know, but it's bad. This leads to people honestly just messing with him. Like this clip I got where two people just enter and exit boxes and he can't do anything about it. It honestly just gets sad to watch after a while. He also commonly gets stuck on objects, which is strange because I don't see Green have this issue and he's much bigger. Basically, the entire outcome of the game is decided by how good your teammates are. Like the very first round I played, where literally everyone but me and one other person died, leaving the round to take like 20 minutes. Compare that to the final round, where I was playing with people who knew what they were doing. Everything was found so quickly that I didn't even make half a lap around the area before it was over. Another complaint involving other people is that if someone holding an object decides to go AFK, you just can't do anything about it, and the game is basically over. To be fair, I'm not really sure what could have been done about this, but it's definitely the scariest part about the game, knowing that someone could just softlock you if they really feel like it. This chase has so many issues that it gets its own mention. After you finish the 4 sections, you have to do one last section where you start by avoiding these balloons and then get chased by Blue in some vents before escaping. First off, in the beginning area, despite being able to chase you up the slope, Blue won't actually kill you up there, leading to this interaction? What is this? Second off, at the end of the chase, all of Blue's hitboxes are disabled, so if you want, you actually don't have to escape and can just go back in the vent. And finally, the best of all, the ending cutscene doesn't actually disable player movement, so if you combine this with the previous glitch, you can blindly walk towards an earlier pit and die in the ending cutscene. Incredible. I know I just wrote an essay about all the glitches, but I just want to make something clear here. I don't expect this game to be perfect. Again, it's Roblox. I had my expectations set to the floor. I'm pointing all of these out to illustrate a point. That point being that the game just isn't very well made, which makes me more confused as to how this became viral. I'm usually very accepting of bugs and poor AI, but if I was able to find all this in 2 games, it shows a certain lack of quality, and more importantly, a lack of effort. I don't want to hate on this dev, I'm sure they never expected this game to blow up the way it did, and for what Roblox is, what they've done is pretty good. It's clear some passion was put here, but not enough for what the game became. I just think for a game to blow up the way this game did, it should have a certain level of quality, and even considering that it's a Roblox game, I just don't see that here. So yeah, this game follows in the footsteps of games before it, following the horror game for kids trend with mind-numbing gameplay and a bunch of bugs. However, what if you were to combine the bad game design and boring gameplay of this game with the poor business practices and short length of Poppy playtime? Why would you ask for this? Just as a heads up, I'm going to be taking gameplay from some other YouTubers for this part because for some reason my OBS hates this game and makes it lag like crazy. I mean, we could use my gameplay, but tell me, do you want to watch this? I thought not. Before we get into the game, I think it's worth mentioning that this isn't actually the developer's first game. Far from it. It isn't even their first Mascot horror game. Look at Egghead Gumpty. Why is there a demo for a 20-minute game? Or if Mascot horror isn't your thing, you could always check out their school shooting game. I'm just gonna leave that there. Back to Garden of Banban though. Just look at these designs. Like really, just look at them. What is this? I know I called the Rainbow Friends characters shapes with faces, but these are just shapes with faces. The only design that isn't just a random polygon is this stupid looking bird, which is literally just that. A bird. The devs recently released a video talking about the development of this game, and they described the thought process of these designs as wanting to look like a kindergartner made them, which like, yeah, I guess you managed to make a shape, great job, but is that really good enough? It feels more like an excuse to make lazy marketable designs rather than something creative they wanted to do, and it doesn't work well at all in a horror game. Anyways, booting up the game right on the title screen, oh boy, we got a merch link. This has been here since launch and is the biggest red flag of this game. It just affirms the idea that, yup, this is indeed for money and nothing else. So we hop in the game and go through a short drone tutorial, the main gimmick of this game, and yup, it's horrendous. I'd compare it to the box from Rainbow Friends. By that I mean it's a slow, boring mechanic that only does one thing. that one thing it does is hit these very obvious buttons, which like, cool, this is so much fun. Why make it move so slow? Seriously, look how long it takes for me commanding the drone to it actually hitting the button. Why? I see potential in a gimmick like this, but if it's not fun to use and you're only forced to use it like 4 times, then I'm probably not gonna use it. Anyways, we get out of the drone tutorial and oh hey look, it's gone. We go into this playground area that also looks horrible, where we collect 6 eggs to feed to this bird that I don't remember the name of. We do that, get a hammer, and then use that to go into this area with a big pit. This room is just confusing to me. The game is supposed to take place in an uncanny kindergarten. The devs even said as much in their video I mentioned earlier. But this room sticks out like a sore thumb. What kindergarten do you know that has a pit and a lift to get across? It completely clashes with the style the game has established. Anyways, we go across, solve the puzzle, and oh my god, the bird is back! I will admit that this one shot is actually pretty cool. Seeing this previously stationary thing suddenly appear on the other side of this giant chasm is pretty surprising your first time through. So the bird slowly rides across towards you, and they actually disabled the button here, so you just have to watch it for a little bit. When the game finally lets you, you hit the button with your drone and begin running away from the bird. After an exhausting 5 seconds of running, you press this button on the other side of the pit, and the bird falls. Yep, that's the whole chase. It's the most interesting part of the game, and it lasts 10 seconds max. After that, we head to this room, and oh hey, would you look at that, it's the end of the game. What? The bird was the only threat seen at any point, and even then, threat is being generous. Now, I'm just gonna say it. I don't care if your game is chapter-based. This amount of content is unacceptable, even as a chapter 1. I've played demos 5 times longer and 50 times more fun than this. Oh wait, my mistake, guys. It actually isn't a chapter 1. That was the entire game. Yeah, they're working on a sequel right now. Not a chapter 2. A sequel. A sequel to a game with literally no content. To give you an idea of how little this game has to offer, I did a little 100% speedrun, making sure to grab every note as well as the bonus tape and secret egg. And you wanna know how long it took me? 8 minutes. And that's including the fact that I spent about 3 minutes just waiting on things to happen, like my drone and the lift in the pit room, and the fact that I literally died during it. If I can honestly not even speedrun your game, just casually complete your entire game in 8 minutes while making numerous mistakes, and most of that time is waiting, then it might be a good idea to add more content to your game. That's not even mentioning actual speedruns, which can complete this game in under 4 minutes. Speaking of that secret tape and egg though, they both lead you to vague and pointless lore, so I can't wait for the game theory episode about it. Just because FNAF got popular off of vague lore does not mean you need to do it too. Also, remember how I said I died once in the game? You wanna know why I died? Not because the game provided a challenge for me, no. It was because a glitch happened where my drone refused to move. My one and only death I ever had during my many playthroughs was because of a bug. Now, after all that, you may be saying, yeah, this game is really bad. So what? It's not like it matters, why do you care? That's where my real point in this video comes in. Because it does matter. This game made it to the Steam front page, and the very top of itch when it came out. At the time of recording this, like a week after it's been out, it's still at the top of itch. And I know, I'm part of the problem, I downloaded it, but that's just my point. If other devs see you can spend 5 minutes working on a game, push it out with no content, and make a profit off of it thanks to merch sales, who's to say this won't happen again? If they see that no matter how good the game is, idiots like me and other YouTubers will play it, then what's stopping others from doing the same thing? I feel like this game, combined with the others I've talked about, shows the decline that the genre has been building up to for the last few years, and I think we need to see a switch before the entire genre collapses. If we keep letting games like this become popular, it sends the message to more devs that lazy products are okay. So no, I'm not gonna play Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, or Rainbow Friends Chapter 2, which for some reason exists, or Garten of Banban 2, because if I do, nothing is gonna change, and I suggest you all do the same. You know, assuming any of you actually play these games. But to not end on a sour note, let me remind you that there are good things happening in this genre, and that hope isn't completely lost. There are still things to look forward to. Bendy and the Dark Revival fixed my main issue with the original, the bad gameplay, and made it fun, creating a genuinely really good game that I would actually recommend even if you dislike the original. Although we haven't seen much, the Security Breach DLC looks promising, and Steelwool has said they plan to do better. If you're a weirdo looking for good Roblox horror games, go check out Doors. a genuinely incredible game that could be sold as a real product outside of Roblox and I wouldn't even bat an eye. And most importantly of all, Hello Neighbor 2 is still complete garbage. Seriously, does anyone actually like this series?